So summer's here. It's been a really busy 8 months since we bought this small holding. I thought it was high time I did an update and just let you know exactly what we've been up to so far on our sustainable living journey. Hi folks, welcome to this future-proof life. My name's Paul and today we're going to have a look at our property that we bought here in Sussex 8 months ago. We have just under 3 acres and we moved here because we wanted to start exploring what it meant to live a greener life, a more environmentally sustainable life. And our aim is to produce more of our own food, to produce more of our own energy, to reduce our waste, and to look at all the different ways we can in a modern world as a family of 4 to try and reduce our environmental footprint. So I'm just going to show you around and show you what we've done so far. I mean, it wasn't that long ago that we moved in. We've had to spend a lot of time building veg beds and just getting ourselves established, and that's what I want to show you today. So perhaps the biggest change here, and certainly for me the most important one, is this air source heat pump. We used to be on kerosene heating oil in this building, so for the hot water and the space heating it was obviously burning loads of fossil fuels. We generate some of our own power. We have 2 kilowatts of solar panels on the roof, and we also get anything else that we need, top up electricity from a renewable supplier. So that means that all the electricity we use is renewably generated. And that means that we can run our heating and our hot water totally sustainably. There's no fossil fuels used in this building at all. Our cooking is electric. The electric oven, we used to have a gas hob, but we've now bought a temporary electric hob so we don't have to use the gas hob anymore, and it means that we're completely fossil fuel free in the house, which is so exciting. So a key part of living sustainably is producing our own food. The food that we can create here is full of nutrients, it's delicious, it's totally organic, so it doesn't use any kind of chemicals. It's also got no food miles, there's no fossil fuels involved in its production, so it's really key for us that we can grow as much food as we possibly can. And you can see here, this is the kitchen garden that we built in the first few months we were here over the winter. And that's pretty close to the house, so it means that we can come straight out of the house when we're cooking and grab produce. And what we did was we created 10 double length veg beds. We used mushroom compost, and then between the beds we've used cardboard and covered in wood chips. Now you can see the beds are fantastic, and obviously we're getting lots of good produce from them, but they've not been easy. We use mushroom compost because I'm a real disciple of Charles Dowding and his no-dig method, and he talked about being able to use pretty much any kind of compost. You put sort of 15 centimeters down and you create these beds, and over time the microbes get into the compost and make it a really good growing medium. The problem is that I use mushroom compost, which, although he said that was okay, we've found that it's really high in nitrogen. I actually did some soil tests to check, and it was low in phosphorus but very high in nitrogen. And the problem with that is that it burns the roots of seedlings, so I found that I lost lots of plants to begin with. Once plants get established, you can see, for example here, the rainbow chard, when they get established they go crazy, because obviously the plant is large enough to be able to handle the nitrogen, and then the plants tend to grow massive because of it, which is nice because you get lots of produce, but the problem is getting them established in the first place. And we really found that we lost lots of plants because we would get leaf burn, or the plants would just wither and die. Now what I'm doing is, when I'm planting plants, I'm actually creating a sort of bowl of bought compost, just standard peat-free compost from the garden centre, and that's just creating a little bit of a medium that the seedlings can get established, and then once they grow a bit larger their roots go down into the mushroom compost and off they go. So that's my technique at the moment, which has been working pretty well. The other thing I've been doing is trying to moderate the amount of nitrogen that's in the soil by adding carbon to it. As the carbon breaks down, it uses up nitrogen. That's why if you have too much wood in your beds, then you find that the plants can suffer because they actually they're starved of nitrogen. In our case, we've got too much nitrogen. So what I've done is I've actually added sawdust to the beds, mixed in sawdust, and I've mixed in a load of just very cheap peat-free compost from the garden centre, just to try and mix through the mushroom compost, and hopefully over the next sort of 6 months the sawdust will break down. That'll use up the nitrogen that's in the compost, and then we'll have a better, more balanced sort of growing medium next season when we come to plant crops then. And then hopefully I can plant seedlings without having to worry about any of them getting burnt or dying off next year. The other thing we've had to do is to create a drip irrigation system, because we have a drought and unfortunately we have a hosepipe ban. It's probably something that we're going to have from now on. We've certainly had them the last few years here in the south of England, and as the world gets hotter and things get drier, water's obviously going to become a premium. So this is a great way to water your crops. Basically, there's a feeder tube that comes from the tap that has a timer on it, and then that feeds each of the beds. Each of the beds has one of these lines where it's a drip line that drips every 12 to 15 centimetres, and it loops up and down and back through the bed, covering all sides of the bed. So basically it's right across and then the full length, so you can water exactly where the crops are. It's a really efficient use of water, and we want to get ourselves a rainwater harvesting system, and so we'll connect that to this, and then obviously that makes it zero cost and is a really good use of water. So the other thing that we did was built this polytunnel. It's an 18 by 30 foot polytunnel, so it's pretty big. It gets really warm. Not too warm, as you can see. I've actually had to put a shade cloth over the top of it because it started to get too hot on the really hot days, and that's worked really well. It's just taken the sun down a notch when it's a really hot day, so this place doesn't get too hot. But we've got lots of tomato plants growing in here which are doing really well, and we've also got aubergines growing at the back, and we have peppers and even chili peppers down here. So we've got lots of produce. I've got nice cucumbers going, which at the moment are chucking out loads and loads of cucumbers at the moment. And what I've actually been doing is using this space for sort of growing on, for propagating and for germinating my seeds, and for growing on seedlings, because I don't have a greenhouse at the moment. And that's one of the problems that we've had since we've been here. Was we started growing seedlings and doing germination in the house, in the sunroom at the front of the house, during the sort of early months in February, and then in the spring we were using the little sort of conservatory we have on the side of the house, but it was just far too hot. And in both situations, either there was too much light and so I had to put the blinds down and then there wasn't enough, or it just wasn't enough light generally when it was overcast days and we were getting really leggy sort of seedlings. So for the time being, I'm going to use this space, and then when we get a greenhouse, I'll be able to do that much better next season. Round behind the polytunnel, this is the old tank for the kerosene for the heating system. Now that we've got a heat pump, we don't need this tank anymore, so I'm going to sell that, and then we're going to use the plinth to put that greenhouse on, so that we're going to have lots of growing space, both for seedlings in the greenhouse and then growing on in the polytunnel and into the kitchen garden. Another key to growing delicious, organic, homegrown food is the compost that you create. It's the best way of bringing nitrogen and nutrients to your soil. It's the best way to grow lovely, healthy food full of nutrients, and to spend as little amount of money as possible. You shouldn't ever need to feed plants as long as they're in really good no-dig beds that have been fed properly during the winter months. You can even get 2 crops through the growing season in beds, and as long as you create really high quality compost, then that should last you throughout the season. For us, we've been using this pallet system to create compost beds. As far as making our compost is concerned, we put grass cuttings in it, we put all of the weeds that we pull out or cut, they go into it. Chicken droppings go in there, and we layer the tray underneath the chicken coop with hemp, which we buy in. It's pretty cheap, but it's really good because it breaks down really well in the compost. So the droppings go onto that, and then the whole lot goes into the compost bin. We take all of our kitchen scraps, anything that we haven't used, anything that's cooked, we put through a Bokashi bran system, which I'll talk about in a different video, and that allows us to use cooked food. You cover it in bran, you keep it in a container for a few weeks, and it actually ferments it rather than letting it rot. So you can even do raw carcasses that way. We don't do that, but we do put all of our cooked food into that. Once that's happened, you can then put it into the bins, and it means that you're not attracting rats and flies and all of that thing, because the cooked produce and even cooked meat and fish and everything has been completely fermented down. So it's a great way as a sort of a pre-step before putting cooked food into compost bins. As well as the kitchen garden, we've also got this sort of allotment space. This was originally raised beds made with railway sleepers when we first arrived, and we've removed the sleepers to try and get rid of sort of slugs and other pests like that, and converted these into no-dig beds. And also, as you can see at the end here, we've also created a fruit cage for all the fruit, and to protect it from birds and from mice and things like that. So obviously the plants in here are just in their first year of establishing. We have summer fruiting raspberries over here, autumn fruiting raspberries, gooseberries, black currants. We've got blueberries along the edge. We've got strawberries, all sorts of good stuff. And we've been getting some produce from it, but obviously next season, when the plants are a bit more established, then hopefully we're going to get a great deal more. Here you can see my faithful assistant Lockie and his obsession. The other thing that's been going on this year is bird flu. It's been a big deal in this country, as it has been in lots of countries. We basically had chicken lockdown until fairly recently, and we couldn't stock up on any more because there's been a complete ban on bringing in new birds into this area where there was a bird flu outbreak about sort of 5 miles away from here just a couple of months ago. So we were going to get new stock for the spring, and then that all fell through. So luckily that's been lifted now, and we're going to get 6 more hens. They're arriving, not moor hens, more hens, 6 more hens to be arriving in the beginning of August. And then hopefully next spring we're going to get some more as well. So that'll bring us up to 9 at the moment. Okay, so hopefully that's given you a little taste of what it is that we've done so far. We've obviously got big plans for expanding the amount of food that we produce and looking at other ways we can live a naturally healthy, sustainable life. And we're going to explore that on this channel. So if you've enjoyed what you've seen, please give the video a thumbs up, give it a like. That helps us to sort of spread the word. And if you want to see more and follow us on this sustainability journey, please subscribe to the channel. Okay, well, many thanks for watching, and I look forward to seeing you next time.